History is our story which must be rewritten by us. The 400 years theory that is being talked about right now, returning back to Africa, something going to happen, judgment going to happen, is a false theory. It's a false alarm. Nothing will happen. We're in 2019. They say this is 400 years now. Nothing will happen. Here's why. You Hebrew Israelites and African Americans have rejected your Christian foundation in the books of the Gospels and in the book of Acts and the entire New Testament. You Hebrew Israelites are responsible for the death of Yeshua and are yet still unrepentant and unconverted, having never been born again. Including other reasons, you've also rejected the Protestant Reformation that began with men like John Huss and Jerome and Martin Luther, founder of the Lutheran Church in Germany. When Yahweh began to wake up his people, he began with those closest to him. He began with those, his prophets, his spokesmen. He knows who truly loves him. Surely Yahweh does nothing, but he reveals his secrets unto his servants, the prophets. That's written in the book of Amos. Around the world, I found people of different languages and nations and families who have been born again and unanimously accepted Ezekiel 4:6 and Numbers chapter 14 verse 34 as the key, the foundational scripture to properly interpret the time prophecies of apocalyptic scripture in Daniel and Revelation. Not just any prophecy, but time prophecies. These two scriptures reveal the 1 day equals 1 year principle. Look them up. Ezekiel chapter 4 verse 6, Numbers chapter 14 verse 34. Now, let's just look at this. Place them in the context of the 7 scriptures I'm about to show you that talk about the 1260-year prophecy that concerns our history. When you put those 7 scriptures in the books that are found in the book of Daniel and Revelation and examine what occurs, what events happen during the time prophecy of the 1260 years. First ask, who does this time prophecy begin with? What event initiates this 1260 years, which started in 538 and ended in 1798? Look at the 7 texts. What dominates it? The beast. Not an animal, but according to Daniel 7 verse 23, a kingdom or nationality rules the world. So which nationality ruled the world for exactly 1260 years? Is the Roman Catholic Church. Before Rome, it was Greece ruled the world under King Alexander the Great, Persia and Babylon. But now we're talking about the Roman Catholic Church. That's the 4th and final kingdom, or the beast that ruled the world, will continue to rule the world until Christ comes back the second time in the flesh. The 7 scriptures must be rightly divided, and here's how. Those 7 scriptures are Daniel 7:25, Daniel chapter 12 verse 7, Revelation chapter 11 verse 1 and 2, and Revelation chapter 12 verse 6 and 14, and finally Revelation chapter 13 verses 1 and 2. The first one, Daniel 7:25. The context begins in verse 16 and ends in verse 27. It's about the war, the little horn versus the saints. War. Under this 1260-year war, the saints lose and the Roman Catholic kingdom wins. The saints lose their nationality status, lost possession of the kingdom, as we had in the book of Acts. We had a possession of our earthly kind of kingdom. The Roman Catholic Church pretends to be Christian during this 1260 years, speaking blasphemies, pretending to be Christians in the name of Christ, killing saints, dominating the world, and they wear out the saints, and they also think to change times and laws, which is the Holy Sabbath Day law, which is the 4th commandment of the 10 commandments. They change the Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday and rule the world, introducing false worship. Daniel chapter 12 verse 7, that's the second scripture. The power of the holy people was scattered. So during this time period, the holy people were scattered, losing power. After the 1260 year time prophecy, Isaiah chapter 11, verse 11 and 12 kicks in, which mentions the remnant that would be assembled and gathered together, the dispersed of Judah, the Yahudim, from the four corners of the earth. They're going to be gathered together after that 1798, which is the end of the 1260 years. Now, Revelation chapter 11, interesting one, is where the Gentiles tread underfoot or persecute the holy city, which began in Europe. Gentiles, now the first time the word Gentiles is mentioned in the Bible is talking about the children of Japheth, which are the Europeans, the Ashkenaz. Japheth, and but also they united with the Edomites. Japheth and Edom came together, became one people, the Europeans. So this chapter concerns European white supremacy, which began in Europe, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, during the French Revolution in France against the Bible during 1260 years. They burned saints with the Bibles together, creating the term bonfire. Revelation chapter 12 now is the same time period of 1260 years, but not happening in Europe, but happened in Africa. Revelation 12 is about the beast, the dragon, and the woman. The woman represents the saints. Ephesians 5, verse 25 to 27. Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. The woman represents the church. Jeremiah chapter 6, verse 2. I have likened the daughter of Zion to a comely and delicate woman. Zion represents the delicate woman, the people of God, symbolized by a woman. 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 2. 2 Corinthians 11, verse 2. Paul says, I have espoused you as a chaste virgin unto Christ. So the church represents the woman in Bible prophecy. So in 538 AD, Rome began this religious attack on Africa's Negro Christians. The wilderness is Africa. Ellen G. White, in her book called The Great Controversy, I think it's page 572, mentions that the churches of Africa were free from the persecution of the Roman Catholic kingdom, from the face of the serpent. For over 1,000 years, they kept the freedom of their faith, enjoying the Sabbath keeping and many other Christian traditional beliefs. They enjoyed keeping the Sabbath for over 1,000 years, she says in The Great Controversy, page 572, I think it is. She was nourished for 1,260 years from the face of the serpent, the Roman Catholic kingdom. And why was the Sabbath attacked? Because it is the seal of Revelation chapter 7 for the 12 tribes of Israel. It is us returning back to Sabbath keeping. This is the holy day. This is the seal of God that keeps the saints prepared and ready for the great time of trouble that Daniel chapter 12 verse 1 mentions. During this 1260 years, the Sabbath was changed in Europe, but it was kept holy in Africa for over 1,000 years, where it says she was nourished from the face of the serpent. Revelation chapter 13 verse 1 and 2 is about the start of the 1260 years. Verse 1 and 2 gives you what happens at the start of the 1260 years. The Roman Catholic Church gets its power, seat, great authority. And then in verse 3, happened in 1798. That's the end, the deadly wound, the head trauma to the Roman Catholic Church. The Pope was arrested and carried to prison by General Berthier, and he died in prison a year later. That was a deadly wound. After that, verse 4 now mentions Sunday worship, and the whole world wondered after the beast when the deadly wound was healed. Another pope came back up to power. I think it was 1729. And Sunday worship became worldwide accepted as the Sabbath. Verse 5 speaks of the Roman Catholic Church boasting of her proud blasphemy. 1260 years ended in 1798. Many prophecies began, many other events happened. America began 1776 and so on, and now I want to keep this very short. So until next time, Judah forever.